Hello, GM friends, GM. Anybody else a little weirded out seeing other people in public? I feel like we should all just breathe in each other's mouths and really celebrate being at a convention for the first time in years. As you can tell, I've been in an attic roughly for 3.5 years, mostly alone and occasionally being jumped on by children. My name's Ethan. I have been developing games for 20 years now. I'm a game designer, is kind of my core skill set. I'm a designer and producer. These are some of the things that I've worked on that you might know me for. I started 20 years ago scanning art out of travel books for Mercenaries on the PS2, and then I got a lot of taquitos for the people who were programming Star Wars Battlefront, and I parlayed that into game design roles on Diner Dash and Jewel Quest Mysteries, and those are the non-embarrassing titles, because the embarrassing titles are like Polypride Pet Detective and Fairy something Match 3 something something. I can't even remember some of those games, but I eventually found my way to EA, where I started my journey as free-to-play person. I produced a couple of Dragon Age Flash games many years ago. Dragon Age Journeys is a pretty good 6 to 8 hour RPG on Flash that might be still playable if you have the right plugin. That was done with Dan Stradwick, who's a great indie Flash developer. And I did Dragon Age Legends, which was a Facebook Canvas free-to-play game, and that started my 14-year journey now as free-to-play asshole. I was first here 10 years ago, right after quitting EA, when I became a free-to-play consultant. In about 3 years, I worked on 50 games, ruining them and getting shit on the internet for being loud about free-to-play in public. I worked on Call of Duty, NBA 2K, Guitar Hero, Family Guy: The Quest for Stuff, War Dragons, Tiny Town, Roller Coaster Tycoon. Those are the ones that like possibly you might know, and then a bunch of things you've never heard of, like misspelled Yahtzee advertising-driven game. Consulting's weird. Anyways, I've worked at Network for 7 years. I was the lead designer on Legendary Game of Heroes, which is a free-to-play mobile RPG. That game is celebrating its 6th anniversary soon of live operations. The facts I can share are that in 2019, we publicly stated that that game had done over $250 million in revenue. That was a couple years ago. It's still going. There's still a live team on it, so it's done even more. I mean, it's no Fortnite, but it's a lot of money. I was the executive producer of Tetris. I did 4 or 5 different Tetris games before becoming blockchain asshole, which is what I'm doing now and what I've done for the past year. We did Tetris Beat, which was a #1 Apple Arcade game. Tetris, we've said, has done over 30 million downloads as the core app. So I've worked on a lot of stuff, mostly free to play. For the past year, I've been doing blockchain. I'm the executive producer of a game called Legendary Heroes Unchained that isn't released yet. It doesn't have a Discord yet. It has 150,000 people on our pre-registration list. So pretty excited to get the Discord going and launch tokens for that and NFTs for that soon. I'm gonna guess the answer is no, but does anybody listen to the Deconstructor of Fun podcasts? All right, cool. Well, I'm famous in my attic, and mostly in Turkey and Israel, apparently. There's a great podcast on over its 180th episode, This Week in Games, run by Deconstructor of Fun, which is a great blog and newsletter about the games industry. I joined as blockchain asshole on that a couple weeks ago, and now I'm a regular on there This Week in Games, and I have a tokenomics podcast as well. So, sorry, long explanation. I've been ruining games for a long time by mostly using my skills as a game designer to be very evil and figure out how games can make money and pay for the roof that's over the attic and the food that goes in my children's stomachs. So that's I really like RPGs. I really like game design, and somebody's job has to be to figure out how we pay for all the stuff. That's what my job is. I'm here to talk about crypto. Raise your hand if you're in the room and you hate crypto. It's okay. You can admit it. Just one? Oh man, I kind of misaligned this talk. Who owns some tokens or NFTs? All right, and who's just kind of like crypto curious? Okay, cool. Well, hopefully I can convince you that crypto is not evil, which it seems like most people don't hate it, so that's a positive start. I think crypto is really great when properly executed. When properly executed, the energy consumption is the same as running a bunch of Amazon servers that power any free-to-play or server-intensive game that you're known and familiar with. When properly executed, blockchain is actually a better monetization model for our players than free-to-play. And that's what I'm here to talk about. Crypto makes a lot of news. You might have seen that Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is a collection of kind of ugly ape things, images. The company that owns that raised $450 million recently to build a World of Warcraft competitor, we think. Then Sandbox, which is a Roblox competitor, has made hundreds of millions of dollars selling virtual land, virtual objects. It has a token called Sand, and it just had its closed alpha. So a game that had 300,000 players in a month, which is good. I mean, I've worked on 80 games. A lot of them had fewer than 300,000 players total. Right? So 300,000 players is pretty good. It's not earth-shattering, especially when, as a comparison point, a friend of mine runs a company called GameFam. They're one of the top, I think they're either the #1 or #2 Roblox publisher. I think they're #2 and like whatever the top Roblox game is #1. They just released a branded Sonic game that did over 100,000 concurrent users. And on a good day, so pre-Sonic, they were doing 300,000 concurrent users on a good day. And now with Sonic, so that probably means on their best day, they're probably 400,000 concurrent users. So just for comparison, the #2 Roblox publisher has 400,000 concurrent users, which means a couple million a day, if not a month. They raised $25 million, that's GameFam. The Sandbox, which had 300,000 users in a month, is about to raise $400 million and sells out every piece of land that it puts on the market. And that game is not even in closed beta yet, and the people who run it and originate the Sand token all have their own family offices, which a family office is a small hedge fund run by a family. So the Sandbox has generated an incredible amount of wealth. If you were in the last game where the guy said like, when I asked him about Sandbox at the end, he's like, yeah, I don't think Sandbox will really work. It has already worked. The people who run the Sandbox are rich. They have done the thing. And people are playing their game too. So crypto, I think, is an amazing opportunity. I think that if you're in this room, you're thinking about it in terms of game design very, very early. And my prediction, why I've pivoted my career here, is that over the next 10 years, I think that crypto gaming is going to eat all of free-to-play gaming. That every game that is free-to-play that doesn't have crypto will be replaced by something that does have crypto. And if that seems like a very optimistic or a very stupid thing for a person to say in public, think about this. Grand Theft Auto 5 is on its 3rd console generation. Grand Theft Auto Online has a subscription service. It is a free-to-play game, and it is so successful that the parent company has not needed to release Grand Theft Auto 6. They will eventually, but they don't need to. And the tactics that they're using in Grand Theft Auto Online, we were using back here in Facebook 10, 15 years ago, and people were using even earlier in Korea, in netcafe games, and on browser games in Europe. So free-to-play started in the US game development consciousness largely with Farmville. That's really when it broke through. And here we are 15 years later, and we still have Grand Theft Auto 5. They don't need to make Grand Theft Auto 6. They will because they want to, but they don't need to. Call of Duty, when I did that consulting job, it was really silly. I spent a day talking to different Activision executives, and they spent more of their money interviewing me for a consulting job than they paid me, just in terms of hours. So I went after from person to person, and I said, this is now 8 years ago, Call of Duty, you're going to stop shipping games. It's going to be a platform. You need to start thinking about Call of Duty as a platform and working on it as a platform, because you're going to stop shipping annual releases. So start working on it now. If you hire me, we'll start thinking about it. They offered me a job. I turned it down because I didn't want to move to LA. Went to Network, made less money, making Legendary. Call of Duty has 2 platforms now. It's got Call of Duty Mobile, Call of Duty Warzone. They're skipping an annual release next year. That's the start, right? Fortnite's a platform. We're in Unreal's town. Fortnite's a platform. They don't release Unreal games anymore. Unreal Tournament doesn't exist for all intents and purposes, because Fortnite is so wildly successful that they can go raise whatever, $2 billion from Sony and Lego, whatever the most recent money is. So I'm taking a very long view on it. There are a lot of problems with crypto right now as it applies to gaming, but 15 years from now, the technology is going to be easy to use. Your mom's going to have a crypto wallet. Your dad will too. They may or may not know they have a crypto wallet. Everyone you know will own crypto assets, and all free-to-play games will be subsumed by crypto games. We're going to have Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty in crypto 15 years from now. It's going to happen. So I'm here early to tell you these are the things you need to think about crypto. Nobody has any answers. Nobody knows the right game design for a sustainable economy. There's not a person in the world. I am like the foremost, within my very cool circle of people who listen to the podcast in Turkey and Israel, I'm like the top crypto guy. And the most important thing I can say is nobody has any answers. I've got some thoughts, and I'm going to share those thoughts with you today. But nobody knows anything. Every one of you in this room is just as likely to figure out how to run a sustainable crypto economy as I am. So go try it. That's my biggest message. I'll go through some other ideas, but I'm here to say these are my thoughts. Over the next couple of years, I'm going to put these thoughts into practice, and hopefully they'll make me as rich as those people who run the sandbox. And I'll come back here and I'll say, I have answers, and I'll give them to you. But right now, I'm just giving you my thoughts, my hypotheses on how we can build sustainable token economies. If you've been following the space, who knows what Axie Infinity is? Okay, handful of people. Axie Infinity is the Farmville of crypto games. And by that I mean it's the one that made the headlines, made a ton of money, and got everybody to turn their heads and pay attention. It's the reason why I'm here today, that and NBA Top Shot. And it's the reason a lot of companies are investing a lot of money in crypto. Last fall, they had a month where I think they made $2 billion. Last week, 2 weeks ago, they got hacked for $650 million. They had to raise money to make good on their players. The value of Axies is tanking. The value of SLP is tanking. Like, everybody looks at Axie and everybody who hates crypto is like, well, we knew Axie was a stupid fad, and look, it's proven. Like, the things aren't worth anything. You wasted all your money on these stupid little Axies. Yes, that is true. Nobody knows how to build a sustainable economy yet. Hopefully we'll figure it out. I think we will. It's not an impossible problem space to solve. So come with me. Come with me into the unknown. This is the first of several kid-friendly references. As you can tell, I spend a lot of time with my young children, and I've replaced stupider references in my talks with mostly Frozen. If I had a better singing voice, I would sing to you right now, but I will spare everyone that embarrassment. Quick disclaimer, very important disclaimer given that I'm talking about crypto, and it is a complicated legal space. So not only does not anybody have the answers about the game design, which is, I'm just talking about game design today, there are a lot of very complicated crypto issues, legal issues with running cryptographic assets, crypto games, making sure you're on the right side of securities law. The law is different in every country, so none of this is legal advice, none of this is financial advice. I'm just talking about game design, and it's a weird world to live in where I have to say that to the 30 people in the room. But it's very important to get that one out of the way. Okay. Why blockchain's going to win? Why you're going to be playing Grand Theft Auto 5 in blockchain 15 years from now. I used to think crypto was really stupid. I've known about it for a long time because I'm a economics nerd. And literally 8 years ago, I did an interview for a position on The Sims. And I talked to a young product manager on The Sims, and all he wanted to talk about was Bitcoin. And I knew enough about Bitcoin at the time to say, yeah, I think Bitcoin's dumb. I think database, it's good for transferring money across borders and for paying for drugs, and other than that, it's useless and stupid and it's never going to be a thing. If I had left that interview and spent $200 on Bitcoin that day, say like, maybe it's stupid, but whatever, here's $200. Like, I wouldn't be here today, I'd be on a yacht. So I thought crypto was stupid. I knew enough about it to have an informed opinion and think it was idiotic for about 8 years before I Red Pill. But I did Red Pill. If you're in the community, I mean, that's a loaded term because a lot of different communities use it for different things. I'm using it in the crypto degen headspace, but I am fully red pilled. Like, I'm here, to, as you can tell, like, I believe that every person I work with, my current company right now, who's kind of skeptical, 7 years from now, they're all going to be working in crypto. Everybody's going to be working in crypto who's working in free-to-play games. I believe it's better for our players. I believe that it's going to win. And I went from that transition actually because I live out here, because I live in South Carolina. I used to live in San Francisco. I was in San Francisco for 12 years and before I moved here. And my prior, my belief set was crypto is dumb. It's a slow, useless database. It doesn't solve any problems. It's confusing. It's good for paying for drugs. And the only people in game development who care about it are venture capitalists and executives. And me, a normal person who likes to ship software and make people happy and give them delightful experiences, I don't care about crypto. That was me January last year, maybe February. So, like, quite literally, when the then COO of Network, when I told him, like, hey, I'm done with Tetris. Like, I gotta get off Tetris. It's been 2.5 years, I've shipped 5 products. I've thoroughly proved that no one wants to play Tetris for real money. I've turned it into a successful game. Like, Christian's doing a great job. I'm done. Like, I'm done with Tetris. I need to do something else. He said, so it's an executive, and for context, Peter Levin is a VC. He's one of the partners of Griffin Gaming Funds. Griffin Gaming Fund funds a lot of the crypto game companies that you may or may not have heard of. So he's like, well, if you're done with Tetris, we've got this game Funko Pop Blitz. It's a Funko-based match 3 game. People love collecting Funkos. I was talking to Peter Levin last night about crypto. You should put crypto in Funko Pop Blitz. I said, Dan, you should go fuck yourself because crypto is stupid and I hate it, and you're an idiot, right? Like, I literally said that to my boss because, as you can tell, I'm vulgar and I'm an asshole and I'm opinionated. A week later, he said to me much more gently, I really think that you should do yourself a favor and look at NBA Top Shot because I think you'll find it interesting. And I said, Dan, I really, really think crypto is stupid. And the only people who care about it read TechCrunch, and no normal people care about it. When I lived in San Francisco, everybody I knew read TechCrunch because everybody I knew wore hoodies and worked in tech. Out in Charleston, my friends are normal people. They're dads who work at banks and work for the military and run an oil analysis lab, and they don't read TechCrunch, and they're not on Clubhouse, and they don't care about Twitter. And a year ago, none of them were on Discord, except for one guy. I was swinging my son, he was swinging his son. It was a Saturday, the day after I told Dan to fuck himself for the second time. And he's like, hey man, have you heard about this NBA Top Shot thing? My brother-in-law has an account, and it's got over $10,000 worth of digital trading cards in it. You have to get on this Discord server. I was like, holy shit. Right? That was my red pill. That was my aha moment. Because this was a normal person in real America. Right? This wasn't some asshole who has a lot of money or talks to people who have a lot of money. It was a real, normal person with a Discord and a wallet and a cryptographic assets. And I was like, what? Okay. So the next week was the next time the first NBA Top Shot pack was on sale. I got in the queue. It cost $100. And I have 3 children under the age of 6. I don't just go out spending $100 unless Aegis Rim comes out on the Switch. And even though I have a shrink-wrap copy on the PS4, if I buy it again, I'm really going to play it this time, right? Like, other than making those type of stupid purchases, I don't splash money around on digital trading cards for a sport that I don't follow to get a video clip that I could right-click and save, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to spend $100 on 3 videos. I'm going to expense this. Network is going to pay for this because Dan told me to do this. This is stupid. I got in the queue, I bought a pack, I got a gold 1 of 499 Tyler Hero card. I do not know who Tyler Hero is. If you are not on one of the 2 3-peat Bulls teams, I don't know who you are. So I have no idea who Tyler Hero is, I still don't. But the moment I bought that pack and got that card, I went to the marketplace. And the floor price on it was $1,600. And if I had chosen to, I could have sold it that instant for $1,600. Sold it a couple months later after holding on to it. But that was my aha moment, was when I got the thing and I saw that people were willing to buy it. I used to collect Magic the Gathering cards. I had a Magic the Gathering problem. I stole money from my parents' wallets to buy booster packs. I got in a lot of trouble, I got suspended, I got, Magic the Gathering in middle school ruined my life for a little while, which is kind of funny now that I sell gacha packs for a living, basically. I was really, really into Magic. And in Magic, there was vast information asymmetry at the time that I played it. If I had a card, I had no idea what its value was. If I wanted to know what its value was, I had to buy a magazine that had outdated information. If I wanted to turn that card into other cards, I had to talk to other people, hope they wanted my card, hope I wanted their card, and I had to guess that it was going to be better for my deck or better for my value than what I had currently. And I'm sure I made a lot of bad trades. Not only did I make a lot of bad trades, I sold a bunch of really early cards for I was like, I'm done with Magic. Magic has ruined my life. I have to get rid of Magic. I just sold a giant box of cards for $400, and boy, do I wish I had kept those cards, because I had a lot of dual lands and other cool stuff at the time. But I remembered the information asymmetry. I remembered going in on a new expansion pack with my friends. I took one of those $20 that I'd stolen from my dad's wallet while he was napping, and I put my money in when the new expansion came out, and we all split up a booster set, and I was literally, I was on the phone with my friends on a landline while they opened the packs and read the cards one by one. And I distinctly remember thinking, I have no idea if any of these things I got are any good or not. It's going to take me weeks to figure out if any of them work in my deck. So when I saw that I opened that pack and I could list the card right then, and someone was willing to buy it for $1,600, that was my red pill moment. And the reason that was my red pill moment was because I was like, well, I don't care about basketball cards. I don't care about basketball. But I understand digital card collecting. I understand deck building, Legendary, right? This game, the one that made $250 million back in 2019 and it still makes a couple $1 million every month. We sell digital card packs with digital cards. And every time somebody buys one of those cards, it increments a value in a server, and they can do nothing with it other than play it or dust it. Dust it's our term for turning it into a currency that you can use in a special store to buy different cards with it. It's like, and people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in Legendary and games like that. There are tons of people who play for free, and then there are tons of people collectively who spend a lot of money on digital assets that they don't own. And I thought, oh, I would spend a lot more money in free-to-play games if I owned my assets. If I could discover the price instantly, if I could sell them to another player when I didn't want it, or when I was done with it, none of the time and investment and money I spent in these games would be wasted. Right now, if I join in, I played, does anybody play AFK Arena? No, okay. AFK Arena is a genre of mobile free-to-play game called an auto battler. It's basically a simulation of a MOBA, 5-on-5 hero battles, card collecting, investing in your heroes. AFK Arena makes over $1 billion a year. It's got plenty of competitors. I played one of those competitors for I played AFK Arena for 6 months. I played Idle Heroes for 6 months. I played a game called Princess Tale for about 6 months, which is very embarrassing, and I shouldn't admit it in public. Princess Tale is a one-to-one clone of AFK Arena, except it crashes more frequently, and all the heroes are chibi girls. And I played it for 6 months after washing. Washing is kind of the term for when you give up on a free-to-play game. So I washed on AFK Arena, I played Princess Tale for 6 months. And like every time I was about to spend money in AFK, in Princess Tale, I was like, well, I really want this thing. I want this new hero, I want this battle pass, I want to open this card pack. And I know it's stupid. My job is to design these things. I've spent 14 years designing these things, and I know that it is an irrational decision to spend $25 on this battle pass in Princess Tale right now. It's so dumb. I should at least spend it on another shrink-wrapped copy of Aegis Rim, right? Like, if I get 13 Sentinels again, at least I'm like paying for great game developers to make a beautiful game that I want more of. At least I'm supporting something I believe in, instead of buying like another little chibi princess that'll make me slightly better in an event for a week or two. Sometimes I spend that money and sometimes I don't. But if I knew that I could buy that thing that I want for irrational reasons, I could play with it and level it up. And when I was done with it, there might be another Ethan who wanted to buy it from me. Maybe I spent $25 and maybe they'd give me $15. Like, just having that security that I own the thing and could give it to somebody, could sell it to somebody else, would make me spend more money, because I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm just throwing money down a black hole. That's a giant rant I didn't plan on going on, sorry. I hope it was entertaining. When you run a successful free-to-play game, and you are part of a company that has earnings targets, you have a conundrum. So if you are a venture-funded company, you're going to have a conundrum. If you're part of a public company with quarterly earnings reports, you're going to have a conundrum. And even if you're at a private company, you might have a conundrum depending upon the attitude of the people who run it. But if you're at a VC company or a venture-funded company, here's your conundrum. You put together a plan. You say, we're going to run these events on these days. We're going to sell these things on these days. We're going to make this much money. And then your bosses say, we need you to make this much money? And then you go back to your plan and you do some spreadsheet and you're like, okay, well, we think that we can do that if we do X and Y. We're all agreed on the plan? Good. Let's go make all those events. Let's go make all that art. You might start the art 3 months, 6 months ahead of time. So you make a plan, you set targets, and then like it's March 20th, and you're part of a company, and someone comes to you and goes like, hey guys, Tetris is doing really great this month, but Legendary is not doing so great. It said it was going to make this much money, and it made this much money. So what can you do that you weren't planning on doing in the next 10 days to help with this problem we have that we're going to miss our earnings targets? That actually hasn't happened to me on Tetris, because Tetris was ad supported, so like you can't do anything. It was kind of a privileged position to be in, to just be like, Tetris makes this much money this month, and it'll make this much money next month, and it all depends on how many people download it and whether Apple gives us promotion or not. Sorry, we can't do anything. Like Tetris was pretty nice to work on as a live ops product, because you can't pull any shenanigans. But if you're working on a free-to-play game with gacha or currencies, with live events, something like Mobile Strike, which I reference a lot over the years, you'll undoubtedly run into this problem. We need you to make more money in the next 10 days. The only way to make more money that you weren't planning on doing in the next 10 days is to do something bad for your players. There is no magical way to make money appear in your bank account in a way that you weren't planning on without doing something bad for your players. You inevitably do something that takes the form of stealing from the future to give to the present, right? So maybe you're like, well, we could run an extra card pack and power creep or give them an edge skill, and we'll make the gap this month, but hey, I'm telling you, next month, like it's going to be a problem because we stole from our players in the future. We think they have an appetite for how much money they're going to spend, and we carefully balance all the time the decisions we make in the interests of keeping them over the long term, because we all agree that if someone who's willing to spend money in our game plays our money next year, that's more valuable than them spending an extra $20 today and then quitting next month because they're angry at us, right? We agree that we want them playing next year. Yes, we agree that we want them playing next year, but we really need more money right now because investors. It happens all the time. If you're at a public company, we need money right now because Dead Space was supposed to ship and it didn't ship. So we're all pulling together to make more money this quarter before so-and-so has to get on a phone call with companies and explain our earnings. And I got into this to bring joy to people, right? As I said, I'm the business asshole. That's my niche, and I kind of live in it comfortably, and I enjoy it. But at my heart, I'm here to bring joy to people, and there's some class of people, I believe, who like to spend money. Spending money brings them joy. Being on top of the leaderboards brings them joy. And I can use that joy to fuel a great game experience for the 99 other people who aren't ever going to spend $1. Finding that trade-off. But I do not want to turn people upside down. I don't want to shake all the money out of their wallets today at the expense of them playing a different game next month. So this is what I have found. I work in a niche called midcore, and it's funny to call it a niche because, like, I've mentioned multiple games that make over $1 billion a year, right? Like who's playing Elden Ring right now? Right? Everybody's playing Elden Ring. Elden Ring's on all the websites. Elden Ring sold 12 million copies. Elden Ring is the biggest thing in gaming. Elden Ring so far has not done $1 billion in gross sales this year. It will definitely go on to do it. At 12 million units plus DLC, it's going to do $1 billion in gross sales. And it's like the biggest new gaming franchise of the year. Maybe one of a few new franchises minted this console generation. I have mentioned multiple stupid games that look like shit that do $1 billion a year in free-to-play. It's a massive industry, right? Free-to-play is, we all care about console because we're console players. That's probably why everyone in this room got into game development. It's because they love World of Warcraft and StarCraft and Diablo and Street Fighter and so and so and so and so, and not because they love Princess Tale, which we all can agree is a stupid game, despite me playing it 6 times a day every day for 6 months. So when I talk about stealing from our players, it generally comes in the form of power creep. Power creep is this. We need a reason for people who spent money last month to spend money this month. Well, if they bought the most powerful thing in the game last month, then we need a new most powerful thing in the game this month. And I don't like that. I want to run game economies without doing that, and I believe crypto can allow us to do it. Because what we're doing when we do power creep in order to generate sales is we are invalidating your past purchases. We're saying, hey, you bought a card pack for $100, you got the Magma Ranger, 5 attack, 1 health, cost 3 energy. 3 months later, we're going to sell you a card pack for $100. Why do you want this card pack? Well, we're selling Ice Rager. He's one of our new cards that you need. He costs 3 energy too. He's got 5 attack too, but he's got 2 health. He is better than the other card. And if you spend $100 on this pack, you might get him and you might win more. That's what power creep is. I believe that blockchain will allow us to run games without power creep. In fact, I believe that power creep will ruin a digital economy. So right now there's a lot of problems with blockchain games. If I tell you to go play Crypto Raiders right now, and you do not have a Polygon-based wallet, it'll take you a couple nights to figure out, a couple nights and a couple $100. That's what it took me. It took me like a week of research, setting up things and being scared that I was going to lose a bunch of money or that people were going to steal from me. It took me a long time to figure out how to play Crypto Raiders. Now that I can play Crypto Raiders, playing Raid Party is easy, but going from 0 to 1 is very hard. There's a lot of reasons to be scared of cryptographic technology, but if you imagine 2 games that are equal, equal in accessibility, equal in stability, everybody is familiar with having a crypto wallet, or maybe the technology has gotten to the point that you don't need a crypto wallet. Like, if you pay for your credit card on your phone, you might use payment rails that are like ACH, I think. If ACH was replaced tomorrow, but you could still tap a button to pay for your credit card from one app to another, like, you wouldn't care. And I kind of think that over the course of 10 years, this thing that is scary, hard, scammy, frightening, it's going to be easy. It's going to become transparent. So if you imagine that we're 10 years in the future, I have Princess Tale, where I don't own my assets. Princess Tale is asking me to spend $100. I have Blockchain Princess, and it's the exact same game, but I do own my assets. And when I spend $100, I might get something that I like and play with it, and I can sell to another person when I'm done. Why would I ever play the game where I don't own my assets, right? Even if you take out all the get-rich-quick part of it, we can all agree that people spend money in free-to-play games every day, that Fortnite is so big that Epic does not need to make another Unreal game ever. They might choose to make Unreal Tournament, but they never need to. Probably, my guess is there's not a lot of people inside of Epic who are like wanting to make Unreal Tournament the next one, right? They're too busy churning out events and making dope concerts in Fortnite. If you had Fortnite is an incumbent. It has audience, right? So like, it's going to be really hard to pry people away from Fortnite. It's going to be hard to pry people away from Roblox. But in the future, when new games are made, right? Like, if you as a player had the option to play one game where you owned your assets and one game that had an equivalent experience where you didn't own your assets, you're gonna choose the one where you own your assets or where you can resell them. It's logical. Like, people will get over the hatred for crypto, but they'll never stop calling me an asshole on the internet. So ownership's gonna win, right? This guy, this is a real person who like owns a chain of appliance stores in Texas. he spent over $2 million in Mobile Strike, and he did so happily. This was in 2016, so he's probably spent like $7 million by now. I bet that guy wishes he could sell all that stuff he bought, right? He has enough money that spending millions of dollars was worth it to him. And I guarantee you that he would prefer a game where he owned his assets to one that he did. Ownership's going to win. Blockchain's going to win because it aligns the incentives of the game developers and the players in a way that free-to-play does not. As one of my 12 long rant non sequiturs explained, this is the conundrum of running a free-to-play game. We are put in positions where we constantly have to shake our players upside down and try and get as much money out of their wallets as we can. Right? Fortnite could choose not to run an event and make less money, and people might not have to work nights and weekends. They could choose to, if the business owners want to, right? But they have to pump those skins out. They got to keep that engagement up. They got to keep selling those battle passes. Whether you are selling purely cosmetic items or whether you are selling power, you are generally in the position of screwing over your most loyal players at the expense of their long-term engagement. We choose revenue in the short term over engagement in the long term over and over. This guy led a boycott. He organized players to stop spending money in a game because he was unhappy with the developers. And that's not unique. That has happened to me. I have been in the room where we've said, our players banded together online. They are boycotting. How do we make them happy? Because they are pissed off at us, and they wrote a manifesto with 7 bullet points of the things that they're angry about. That has happened to me multiple times. So I don't want to be in that position. I want to bring people joy, and I want to pay for my mortgage and my kids' future bar and bat mitzvahs while doing so. I believe that crypto will allow us to align our incentives. How it's going to do that? A free-to-play game has 3 primary revenue sources, right? I'm going to ignore the most, like the unicorns. Not everyone's Angry Birds. There are very few movies based on free-to-play game franchises. So just talking about standard free-to-play game. You have in-app purchases, you have subscriptions, you have ads. And as I've explained multiple times, when you want to make more money, you have to do something, you have to give players a reason to spend more money. You have to sell more stuff and give them a reason that means, hey, even though you spent $2,000 last month, you really want to spend $2,000 this month because you really want to win the event leaderboard, right? Because the person who wins the event leaderboard, they will have bought the Scotch pack, so you better buy it too. Right? So if you're in a game where you can buy power or get an advantage through subscription, you find yourself in this conundrum probably. Blockchain games have many more revenue sources. They can have IAP, they can have subscription, and they can have ads. Legendary Heroes Unchained, the new blockchain-based crypto game that we're working on, just like Legendary Game of Heroes, will have in-app purchases. You'll be able to spend money with your credit card, probably to buy energy to play more battles. It will also have new classes of revenue. It'll have primary NFT sales. That means, hey, it's like a Magic the Gathering expansions, right? We're releasing a new set of cards. Today we're putting 500 legendary rarity heroes on sale. Join the queue, you might get a chance to buy one. That's what I mean by a primary sale. We're making an asset, we're introducing it into the system for the first time, and you can buy it from us. Once players own those assets, they can sell them to each other. That's secondary sales. The standard, it's a little early to have a standard, but it looks like things are shaking out that in general, you will take as a developer a 5% rate, give or take, on those sales. So I talked about Tyler Hero before. I sold Tyler Hero for $1,600. I got whatever 95% of $1,600 is. Dapper Labs got the 5%, right? So they're not making anywhere near as much money on those secondary sales on an individual transaction as they are the first time they sold the card to me. But it is unique and different. It is in their interest to maintain the value of those cards and grow the value of those cards over time and allow me to create demand so that other people want to buy my cards. The more secondary market activity there is at higher prices, the more revenue that they will make over the long term, right? So on Legendary Heroes Unchained, it's my conjecture that the most important thing is to keep people around for 5 years or 10 years. I gave a talk in GDC called Building a 10-Year Game Economy. And I showed basically slides from my game design document that for a game that wasn't announced yet, where I'm like, I'm thinking about how to keep someone around for 10 years, how to keep them entertained for 10 years without power creeping their stuff, right? And the reason is because Magic the Gathering is more popular than it's ever been. They can't make money on secondary sales. If I go to a card shop and I buy a mirror universe from somebody else that I sold to somebody else 12, 30 years ago, I'm old, Hasbro doesn't see any of that. If it were a digital asset, they would get 5% of their sale. Magic the Gathering is more popular and successful than it's ever been, and if all of that market activity was crypto activity, Hasbro would be making an ungodly amount of money on that secondary NFT rig. Then the other thing is token sales, right? If the people who run Sandbox have a token called Sand, they have sold that token privately to investors. That's how they've raised money to make the game. And now they have a treasury, which is a name for a wallet, where the vast majority of Sand exists. And every day, people buy and sell millions of dollars worth of Sand. And even though their game just closed down their closed alpha, they could easily sell Sand holdings equivalent to 1 to 2% of the total trading volume of Sand today, not affect the price of Sand, downwards or upwards, and bring home a couple $1 million. They probably did. I don't know, I'm not monitoring the wallet. But once you create one of these digital economies, you have the option. So, I've gone back, or I said it really sucks to be in the room where they're make $50,000 today that you weren't planning on. If you had a bank account and it held all the Sand, your boss came to you and said, we need you to make $50,000 today that you weren't planning on because we need a number and a graph to look exactly like this when we go to investors next month. You're like, sure. And click a button and I do it. Because there's already so much trading volume in Sand that they can choose at any time to make to turn a reasonable amount of digital currency into fiat currency. So these things are really interesting. The secondary sales and the token sales. This is where incentives are aligned. The players of your game are also investors. They want those prices to be as high as possible because they benefit from it. You want those prices to be as high as possible because you benefit from it. They could sell 80% of their Sand holdings today, and as they did, the price of Sand would go down and down and down and down until it went to zero and there were no purchasers for Sand, right? The Sandbox game could generate $1 billion in cash today, right now, if they chose to. But it is not in their interest to do so. Because everybody who held Sand, as soon as they caught wind of it, would try and sell their Sand as well. There would be a bank run. It is in the Sandbox interest for the price of Sand to be as high as possible 10 years from now. And the only way to keep it high is to delight their players and keep their players playing their game and keep their players happy and keep reasons for sand to be trading hands. That's how they win. That's what I'm excited about. I'm excited that I don't have to steal from the future to give to the present. That if somebody said, we need you to make $50,000 today you weren't planning on, I could say, no, I will not. I refuse to. Because if we did so, it would have a negative long-term effect on our retention. And all I care about, the only thing I care about, is whether someone who joins the game today and is willing to spend money today is still going to be playing the game 10 years from now. That is the most important thing to me. Every decision we make as live operators is within that framework. How do I keep people playing 10 years from now? How do I bring them joy? How do I delight them? Because that will inevitably turn into money for them and money for us. And then everybody's happy. This is not how things work with publicly traded companies, right? Who saw the news about Netflix yesterday, right? They lost a ton of subscribers and their stock value went down a bunch yesterday. Because like the bubbles burst, the competition is real. They said something like, we lost some 100,000 subscribers and we expect to lose 2 million more. And like the thing that was propping up their share value has happened, has collapsed. This is actually probably very good for us, the viewers of Netflix, right? They're losing subscribers because there's a lot more competition from CNN Plus and Discovery Plus and Warner, HBO Max and Hulu and this and that. And every person in this room probably has 12 different subscriptions. All that content, all that competition, and the collapse of that share price means that Netflix has to make better shows for us. It's good for us that their share price collapsed, because now they have to try harder, right? It collapsed because they're losing subscribers, because there's more competition. And there's one thing they can do which is bad for us, which is like stop password sharing, and that will be a short-term pinch. But in the long term, they just have to make better shows. It's the only way to keep us, to make better shows more frequently, right? Like Bridgerton season 3 is going to come sooner. That's good for me. I love Bridgerton. It's a lot of fun. Love those costumes, love that romance. Love Lady Danbury. Yeah. So what's interesting about having our incentives aligned is that if we as the developers make bad short-term decisions for our players, it creates a downward spiral where the economy will collapse. And this has happened to Axie Infinity, the Farmville of crypto. However many months ago, I bought 4 Axies for $1,600. I did expense those. I did not pay for those out of my pocket. If I resold those today, I would maybe get $200, maybe. Probably not. And it's because they did a poor job of designing their digital economy. Their economy is by nature inflationary. It lacks long-term utility. And there was a natural tipping point whereby more people every person who joined the game to create more stuff to sell to people who were joining the game. It was a pyramid scheme. It was Ponzi-nomics, as they say. And so Axie's in a downward spiral. I mean, they still have token value, like they're still making a lot of money, but it's going to be really, really hard to recover back to the heights they were at. And I don't predict that they will. So this is me now, or this is who I think I'm going to be. We'll see. But I think that in that situation that I've talked about, where someone is asking me to make bad decisions for my player for the sake of money now, I can just say no. Like, we can't, just like that Tetris thing, right? Earlier I said, Tetris was great to work on because there was literally nothing we could do, right? People play Tetris, they watch ads, we make money. I can't make them watch more ads. They're playing whatever their appetite for Tetris is every day. I mean, like, I can make more features that over time make the game better and make them spend more time. But like, there's nothing I can do on Tuesday in Tetris to make more money on Wednesday. It's just not set up that way. And I like that because my incentive is to keep people playing Tetris for a very long period of time. And now with blockchain-based games, as I've said, the incentives are aligned. So stealing from the future to give to the present has very real, tangible, immediate, and negative consequences for everyone involved. I'm almost out of time, and I'm like halfway through. Sorry, this is the first version of this talk, so I guess you got the rant. Let me go through this part really quickly, and I'll make a couple minutes for questions, and I'll hang out as well. There are two primary classes of assets. There are NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Those are replacements for heroes, skins, gear, pet, land, things that a player owns that is or can become unique. We have a real conundrum, which is that we want to balance games such that they are fair and fun. And that means we have to nerf stuff over and over, right? We release a new hero with a new skill. It interacts with the hero we released 3 years ago in a way we didn't anticipate, and this is the most powerful combination in the game, and the person who figures it out wins. Well, we need to nerf one of those heroes. They're overpowered. It's not fun anymore, right? Like, it's a thing you must do all the time when you're managing a live game. But the challenge with NFTs is, one, players own the assets, and two, they are immutable, right? I make a gun, the gun has traits, I cannot change those traits. If my gun's traits are that it is handheld, and it is a repeater, and it shoots 6 darts, and I mint that on the chain, I cannot change that. Those properties exist in the game, outside of the game. Other games can scan that item, see that it's a gun, it's handheld, it's got a repeater, and it does 6 shots, and they can interpret what that means in their game, right? So the players own their stuff, and there are parts of it we can't change. But we need to be able to change stuff to keep things fair, to remove exploits. So that means 2 things as a designer. One, you need a very long-term view on your game's utility and on your assets' utility. In Heroes Unchained, when I started designing it, I literally put together a map, and I'm like, it's where the game's going to be 5 years from now. These are all the things you're going to be able to do with your heroes and your pets and your gear and your land. And I'm designing all those things today. So I need an opinion on how the hero you buy today is going to be used in Alliance Wars, which I'm not going to build for 3 years, right? How does my hero work in a battle engine or in a game system that someone who buys it today will still find it valuable when I release Alliance Wars 5 years from now, because my timeline slipped, of course. So you need a really long-term opinion on utility before you mint those traits on chain. You also need a translation layer, right? There's a difference between saying, this is my sword, it is a sword of +5 attack. It will always be a sword of +5 attack. If you write +5 attack as the trait into the blockchain, like, that's it. It's got +5 attack forever, right? And if suddenly, for whatever reason, +5 attack is the most overpowered thing in the game, you can't change the sword. You have to introduce something new that's more overpowered so that this doesn't be like to level everything else up. So you need a translation layer. You need to say, this is the sword of flaming awesomeness. It will always be the sword of flaming awesomeness. There's nothing I can do. No power on earth can remove the flaming awesomeness tag from the sword. What does it mean to be flaming awesome? Well, my game engine recognizes that this is the sword of flaming awesomeness, and it gives +5 to attack. And if +5 to attack is too powerful, I can change it to mean that the sword of flaming awesomeness gets +4 to attack. So you need a translation layer. The translation layer of how traits are interpreted into stats in your game system will allow you to balance your game over time without disrespecting the immutable properties of assets that players own. Tokens. This is what this talk was about, an hour in. Tokens. All right, so you've got two types of things. You have tokens, you have currencies. Currencies is not an industry standard term. It's a term we use in our game engine. You might call them daubers or coins or whatever. I call them currencies because that's our internal term. A token is a cryptographic asset. A currency is just a normal increment number in a database somewhere. It's the difference between saying, I earn 20 gold, and if I am done playing the game, there's nothing I can do with my 20 gold. The 20 gold it sits in a database somewhere. Versus, I own 20 gold tokens. There is a market for gold tokens on ftx.us. I don't need those tokens, so I can sell them to somebody who does. Your game will require a balance of both. And really, when you look at something, you have to think, do I want it to be a token or do I want it to be a currency? And the main thing is whether you want the ability of something to transfer from one player to another. So you might say, I have my Sword of Flaming Awesomeness. I want people to be able to level up that Sword of Flaming Awesomeness, and to do so, they'll spend Chuck E. Cheese tokens. Do I want someone to be able to pay directly to level up the Sword of Flaming Awesomeness? If I do, I will allow them to upgrade it by using tokens. Because if I have the Sword of Flaming Awesomeness, and I want someone to bring it to pay directly to level it from level 1 to level 2, I'll say spend tokens to do it. And they can go buy tokens from somebody else and level it up. If I want my Sword of Flaming Awesomeness to only upgrade because of some action the player did that is unrelated to money, I'll use a currency. I'll say if you want to upgrade the Sword of Flaming Awesomeness, you'll go to the dungeon of Chuck E. Cheese tokens, which is only open on Thursday, and you'll fight the dragon, and he'll give you 5 Chuck E. Cheese tokens, and you use it to upgrade your sword. So your game will have a mixture of both. Tokens aren't the solution to everything. You have to be very careful about it. Tokens can have a floating value or a stable value, right? Which means market determines the price, or the price is pegged to fiat currency. So why might I want to use a stable value token? If I'm selling heroes in my game, I might just want to say, hey, heroes cost $100. We're selling a card pack today, it costs $100. Give us $100 of this stable coin. Each one of these coins is worth $100, and you get the thing. Or I might want to say, I'm going to reprice this all the time, because the fiat currency that you think in, the value of these tokens changes all the time. They have different uses. It's late. I want to make a little moment for question. I think the main thing is just like, designing tokens and designing currencies and designing progression systems isn't that different, crypto versus non-crypto. You just have to be very careful and think about what are the things I want somebody to be able to pay for, what are the things I want to fluctuate in value, and what are things that I want to stay stable in value and for somebody to not be able to pay for. There are some things you'll want somebody to be able to pay for, some things you won't want people to be able to pay for, and those are choices that you as a game designer can make. In conclusion, thank you for listening to my long and varied rants. I hope you found them entertaining and maybe educational as well. As you can tell, I really believe in the power of cryptographic assets to allow us to make games better for our players. The economic pie of these games will be bigger than they are currently, and the majority of the wealth that is created by these games will go into the hands of the players and not into the hands of us. And that is exciting to me. I believe that we will make more money by delighting our players for longer periods of time and allowing them to become wealthy if they're really devoted to playing the game and they get lucky in the stuff that they get. So I'm excited about the big pie, and this was one of 15 big pie pictures I chose today. I hope you like it. I almost went with the world's largest pecan pie, but it wasn't a very good image, even though I thought it was funny that the banner that said the world's largest pecan pie. Behind it, that is my talk. Thank you for listening. If if you are not turned off by me ranting, listen to the Deconstructor of Fun podcasts, and yeah, go pre-register for Legendary questions. Anybody?
So the secondary NFT sales, is that something that would be just player-based, or would the company take profit out of that?
The company takes a profit out of it, so the way that it generally works is that you set a tax rate. So I said the tax rate's generally settling around 5%, but that's a choice, right? So you could run a market for your game and say we take no rate. Or you could say we take if you're selling on OpenSea, we could take a 10% rate. Anything in between. So it's up to the player's choice, basically, what percentage of the sale they want to take on the marketplace that they control.
What have you observed to be more successful?
I don't think there's an answer yet. I don't know that anyone's run an experiment to test the price sensitivity of players on that rate. Generally, I perceive 4 to 5% to be fair. But there's no study.
So you're talking about how tokenomics can benefit you from creating games that will have power creep as a way of selling more things. So the secondary sale would be a way of preventing that. But so what are you selling for your primary sale if you're not creating powerful items?
Right. So the question is, well, if you eliminate power creep, how do you make the things you're selling desirable?
Yeah.
My opinion is that you need to keep assets scarce, right? In a gacha game with no scarcity, my job as an operator is to sell as many card packs every day as I can. And again, so that's why you have a 0.1% drop rate on the most desirable card in the card pack, and somebody spends $2,000 getting a bunch of junk in the hopes of getting that one thing they actually. The way I am picturing running a token economy is to say, okay, my job isn't to sell as many cards as I possibly can any day. It's to figure out what the appetite is and undersupply it. I always want to sell less heroes or pets or gear or land than there is a natural appetite for. And that's how I'm gonna, eliminate power creep. Is that in year 5, I'm going to be selling heroes with the maximum height of power as the first heroes I sold. Except I've only sold 10,000 of them in 5 years. And people have an infinite appetite for them, but I'm keeping them really scarce. That's kind of what I think is going to work. Hopefully I'm right. We'll see.
Yeah. So would this be a tool similar to how Magic the Gathering, they have sets that can be played in official tournaments?
Yeah.
You can limit that on your digital house.
Yeah, I think that'll be a really common tactic of saying hey, our newest season is Almar's Revenge, and Tuesday through Thursday we're running a tournament where you have to use Almar's Revenge cards. But Wednesday through Friday we're running an Aliens Return tournament, and you can only play with cards that were released 18 months ago from the Aliens Return tournament. I think it's going to be a really common tactic to keep older things relevant and to maintain their value over time. And I think that's good. Like I said, I think that's respecting players, because it's saying, you bought something for $100 18 months ago, and guess what? It's still useful today. Be excited, because there's something you can earn because you own that thing that people who don't own that thing can't. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. it's a slow, stupid